moving forward now, you said you're recording. It's amazing to me how you have managed to maintain your vocal ability, to put it simply. You still hit the high notes. Again, I can't think of very many artists that are still at that level where they can, put it across like you do. You hit those notes. I don't know. It's amazing. How do you do it? I guess is the simple question.
I think that probably some of it's in your genes. It's whether what kind of voice box you've got. I learned a little bit of singing technique from a very good singing coach quite late on in life. I was probably around 50 when I took a few lessons with him. He taught me a little bit about singing technique, and he gave me some singing exercises that I do when we're touring. I do them religiously twice a day, and that really helps. And then after that, really, I think it comes down to common sense. It's staying hydrated is so important, eating sensibly, and getting plenty of sleep. The complete opposite to what you would think life on the road is.
Yes.
And I think back sometimes to life on the road when I was a teenager, and that is the complete opposite of the way that we lived at the Zombies when we first started. But when you're young, you can do it and you can get away with it. As you get older, and I'm not talking about my age, I'm talking about probably in your 30s, maybe your late 20s, you have to start looking after yourself. Particularly if you're a singer, because your voice is just like it's a muscle that you have to nurture, you have to protect it. I'll tell you what it reminds me of is if you were an athlete when you were young, you could run fast, you could run all day, but as you get older you can't, and you have to do things in a slightly different way, and singing is very similar to that. You just have to learn a little bit about technique, or a few of the tricks if you prefer, and really look after yourself, and then with a bit of luck you can still do it.
All right, so you've had two parallel careers that are both in sync, the Zombies and your solo career, and I'm curious, is there a divide? I mean, or are they just, is it one career or is it two? I mean, because they're parallel, they've been parallel careers for so long.
Yeah, no, I think it's two completely separate careers, really. In general, I think the Zombies material is more rock and roll, if you like, and the solo career perhaps is a bit more ballady. It's not a ballady career, but it's a bit more ballady. But the two careers have run together. For the last 20 years, I've always put the Zombies first, and so the solo career, I've been really lucky. If we've had a quiet period, there haven't been too many quiet periods, but if there's been a quiet period, then I can slip straight away into my solo career, and it's usually a completely different band. Sometimes, like Steve Rodford actually is in the Zombies and has always been in my solo band, my favourite drummer. But the other players are usually completely different.
Yes.
And I try to make the shows as different as possible. But in the solo set, I would probably always play She's Not There and Time of the Season, because people love to hear those songs.
Yeah.
But I just think it's a good thing to have two completely separate careers running at the same time.
Both of those careers and the overall career are, I think, unique in the annals of popular music, because with the Zombies, the early success, and then Odessey and Oracle, which we should talk about, reissued, and then there was the layoff, and then the comeback, and at the same time your solo career began after Zombies Mach 1 and continues. So it's very unique, the twists and the turns and the continuum that you've had,
I completely agree with you. It has been, it's been very interesting, but it is unique. There've been many ups and many downs, but I wouldn't change any of it for the way things have worked out. It's been absolutely brilliant. The original Zombies actually finished in 1967.
Yeah.
Although I kept working, particularly with Rod Argent and Chris White, who
Right.
co-produced my early albums, and then I worked with Rod through the years in one project after another. Mostly he was producing, and then in 1999 I had a keyboard player who kept not turning up for concerts, and I thought I was going to have a heart attack if I kept on any longer working with this chap. He was a lovely guy, he was a great player, but he got easily diverted into other things.
Yeah.
And I phoned Rod up and I said, look, I've got 6 concerts left in this tour, would you consider? And he was a very successful producer, he wasn't playing live at the time. He said, I'll play those 6 dates for you, of course, but I don't want to play anymore. And those 6 dates grew into 25 years on the road, which we always think of the second incarnation of the Zombies,
Right.
and led directly to our induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Right, brilliant.
So it was funny, we thought the Zombies were over in 1967. Even when Rod and I got back together again, we didn't play many Zombie tunes. We thought people had forgotten. And what a surprise we got. Traveling around the world, people kept asking for more and more Zombie songs until we were actually playing a Zombie set.
Yes.
But with the second incarnation of the band. And it was at that point that we thought, we really should call this band the Zombies. We're playing an evening of Zombies music. It seems silly to not tell people what to expect. And that was the second incarnation of the band.
Well, I remember you had the dual album. It was billed as you and as Rod. It was the pairing. But it wasn't called the Zombies at that point.
That's right.
But it was the gateway.
It was the gateway. I mean, it kept changing, to be absolutely honest.
Yeah.
I think there was Colin Blunstone and Rod Argent, and then it was Colin Blunstone and Rod Argent of the Zombies, and then it was the Zombies featuring Colin Blunstone and Rod Argent, and eventually it ended up as the Zombies.
Yeah.
I took a back seat in all of those negotiations. I'm just happy to play, really. You can call me what you like, as long as I can play, I'm fine. The new Zombies documentary is called Hung Up on a Dream.
All
It's
right.
directed by Robert Schwartzman.
All right.
It's wonderful. He's found so many old clips of film that we didn't even know existed, and it was a real eye-opener the first time I saw it, seeing 60 years of my career condensed into an hour and a half. It was an emotional ride, it really was. It's available on Amazon Prime
Right.
and on Apple TV to rent or to buy.
Right.
So I thoroughly recommend that you either rent or buy it. I think that would be a very wise and wonderful thing.
I couldn't agree more. Well, that begs the question, Colin. Are you a nostalgic sort? I mean, you have a history that goes back 60 years. You're still doing it continuously. I don't know of many other artists or bands that have that continuum. I guess, the Stones, the Who, we don't want to talk about them. Their last tour seems like a disaster. But do you ever go back in your mind to those early days? Do you ever have moments of reflection when you think about, wow, here we were top of the pops at the helm of the British invasion, that sort of thing?
Well, I think everybody does think back and reflect on those things and think what could have been different. You think if just we'd done a few things differently, maybe the band would have lasted longer. But then you have to remember that if you change one thing, you change everything. And I've had a wonderful life. I'm very happy with where I am in my life at the moment. And it would really frighten me to change anything in that very up and down career that we've had.
Yeah.
So I do think back on the past, but the most important thing is to concentrate on the future. And I'm very much focused on that. I want to be writing new material. I want to be recording a new solo album. I'm hoping that Rod's going to write new songs. He's certainly written some, and that we'll make new zombie albums as well. Rod is adamant he won't tour anymore, but I am hoping that we'll make new zombie albums. So there's lots of things to concentrate about the future, and I think it's very energizing to think in that way rather than to get too involved in what happened in the past.
And it's wonderful now that it's going to have a new life with this new remixed mono version. So it starts anew.
It starts anew, and it's on our own record label.
Excellent.
Beechwood Park Records, and a worldwide release. So we've finally got our own record label after whatever it is, 60 years. You know, the Zombies always thought that we were an emerging rock band. It just took us a long time to emerge. It took us actually about 60 years before we emerged fully, and we were playing prestige gigs around the world.
Well, it's that second life, reincarnation, I don't know. The new documentary brings that to the fore. I love the way it goes back in time and then brings it to the current time so that people who are aware, can enjoy it, but people who weren't aware originally are getting that introduction. I mean,
absolutely. And I think overall, I think it's a wonderful documentary, but I think overall it's a story of hope, really, because there were lots of ups and downs in the Zombies' career, but the documentary climaxes with us being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is, it's a wonderful thing, especially for a band that had been around for a long time, to realise that first of all we had over 300,000 fan votes, but also of course we had the votes of our peers, of our fellow musicians, to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And it makes us remember that Odessey and Oracle, which was ignored when it was first released, it did have a value. It was a worthwhile piece of music because it's got that acceptance a long time after it was recorded, and with that acceptance the band have got acceptance and feel valid in what they were doing then and in what they're doing in later life as well. So it was a wonderful climax of emotions for us that night at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, in front of 17,000 people, when we were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
That album, there's such irony attached to it. It was your Sgt. Pepper, let's face it was your Sgt. Pepper. And it was the culmination of a brilliant career that took your music to another level. And Al Cooper, as I understand it, championed it with CDs, but it didn't get the attention it deserved, and it was in the cutout bins or something.
Well, it was Al Cooper went to see Clive Davis on his first day of work at CBS, and he said, "Clive, I've just been to London, I came back with 200 albums. This album stood out above all of the other albums. We have to get this album, whatever it costs, we have to get this album." Clive Davis said, "We already own this album, Odessey and Oracle, but we weren't even going to release it." And it's only because Al Cooper fought for it that it got released, but it was released on a minor label.
Yes.
It was released on date, and I'm led to believe that it wouldn't have been a priority product, and so it did to some extent get rather forgotten. Although, again, because of Al Cooper, the third single, there were 3 singles released. The third single was Time of the Season, which Al Cooper chose and championed. And so in Cashbox we had a #1 hit record with Time of the Season. But Odessey and Oracle, the album that it was taken from, really wasn't a hit at all at the time. I've looked it up. It was 1 week in the Billboard Top 100 at 98, and then it disappeared.
It went into the cutout bins.
This is something that there are a lot of mysteries with the Zombies. I have to prepare you for that. I can't answer all the questions because I don't understand it. But this is one of the mysteries to me, that years later, probably 50 years later, Odessey and Oracle can be named by Rolling Stone as one of the top 100 albums of all time. And yet when it was released, to a large extent, it was ignored. I don't understand how that could happen. It's a long time ago.
It's a fluke.
It doesn't really matter that much anymore, but it just intrigues me how that can happen. But it did. But then, you know what happened? Some wonderful artists started championing Odessey and Oracle.
So you were saying that in the UK, Paul Weller championed the album.
He did. He wouldn't stop talking about it, you know. And I've had a very good authority that if you're walking along the road with him and he mentions Odessey and Oracle and you haven't heard it, he'll go to the nearest record store and he'll buy you a copy of Odessey and Oracle.
Excellent.
And you know, one of the last gigs we ever played with Rod, it was at the Barbican. It was a wonderful evening. It's a very prestigious gig.
Mm-hmm.
And Paul Weller came along and played.
Wow.
Yeah, and he sang Beechwood Park.
Wow.
It was incredible. It was really, really good. Quite different to how we do it, but fantastic. You know, it was such an honour to share a stage with him. So in the UK, Paul Weller was always talking about Odessey and Oracle. In the States, it was Tom Petty to start with. Just a huge advocate of the Zombies and Odessey and Oracle. Later on, Dave Grohl and Susanna Hoffs. Just wonderful allies for the cause. And just through word of mouth, it started to pick up sales. It sells far more now than it ever did when it was first released. It's never stopped selling, actually, over the 60 years. It's an extraordinary album. I've often thought that album has had a life of its own. For long periods, certainly as far as the record company is concerned, no one was promoting it and no one was marketing it. But it never quite ever went away. It kept fighting its way through and getting attention from people. So I often think it's had a life of its own.
Well, that's longevity, and that's like a great classical piece by Beethoven or Schubert or Mozart, how they stand the test of time. I mean, it's in that category.
Well, it's a nice thought, isn't it? I wouldn't compare us to the greats of classical music, but if music does last the test of time, it means something. And I think that the songs on Odessey and Oracle sound as fresh and relevant today as they did when they were first recorded.
You're amazing. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. Do you still love touring? Do you still love the performing? You still like doing it?
Of course, I wouldn't do it if I didn't love it.
All right.
I know it can be quite tough, and you have to be quite resilient for the travelling.
Yeah.
And usually when you're on tour, there'll always be a few dramas, but as you get older, it gets easier to cope with them. You know, and no, I love touring. I love the whole process. I like writing songs. I like to see that idea progress into a recorded environment where you see a song really start to take shape. And then if you're really lucky, you take that song on the road with you and you offer that song to an audience, and with a bit of luck, you'll get a wonderful response back. That's the process that I absolutely adore.
You know, it would seem to me as a geek, in terms of obsessive collecting, that an anthology that focused on your solo material, maybe I know that there has been a Zombies anthology, but at this point you have so many recordings of your own, maybe an anthology to sort of maybe bring people to the present, you know, as a reminder, you know.
I think it's a good idea. I have thought about that, perhaps, but the best tracks together. I'd also really like to put, even if it's only for myself and perhaps my friends, I'd love to put an album together of songs I've written. Because they're, apart from, they might not be the best known ones in some cases, but they're very close to my heart, the songs that I've written, and I'd love to do that. I've thought of doing that for myself and my friends, and then maybe just to have them at concerts. I don't know whether we would sell them or give them away, but I would like to do that. So that's two projects that would be worth working on, I think.
You could sort of combine it, do a live recording specifically focusing on your material.
Well, we've just done a live recording actually. I played a concert at the Union Chapel in London last November.
Yes.
And the first half of the concert was a shortened version of my current live set. And the second half was my first solo album was called 1 Year. It's just after the Zombies finished.
What a great album.
Just after the Zombies, thank you. Just after the Zombies finished, and it's quite a complicated album. And there's lots of different kinds of music, and there's a lot of string quartet music in there. And we decided we were going to play that in the second half. It's quite a challenge to do it, but we had a wonderful string quartet called the Q Strings featured on that. So there's going to be a DVD released in November.
Excellent.
And it will feature the current set and also a live version of 1 Year, and it's really good. Rod Argent called me. He wasn't there that night. You know, he hasn't been very well.
Yes.
He wasn't there, but he heard a version of 1 Year, and he co-produced the original album. He heard of the live version, and he said, you know, because of the excitement of it being a live album, I think I prefer the live album to the studio album. And that's coming from the producer of the studio album.
Wow.
So I was really knocked out, because Rod is a wonderful, wonderful musician. And also, he tells you how it is, you know? And for him to say that, I was absolutely thrilled. I think it's going to be a really well accepted project when it's released in November. I'm so proud of it, and all the players are just wonderful.
Wow, that's excellent. So I'm very excited to hear about you plan to do some new recording. Is there any definitive timeline at this point, or it's just in the planning stages?
Well, I've learned through experience that it's very difficult to hit deadlines when you're recording, because who knows how long songs are going to take to write. Who knows how long songs are going to take to record. And I think certainly on the solo side, I've probably completed 3 albums under incredible pressure, where the last few tracks I've got a few regrets in. That's when I'm reflecting about the past, I might think back on a couple of albums and think, you know, I wish we hadn't hurried that for the tour that was coming up. The tour was sold on the back of me having a new album available, and then the album gets rushed. So I'm going to try and not put any dates. In the end, probably there will be dates, but right now we're right at the beginning of a solo album project.
Excellent.
And it's a very exciting prospect, and I'm really looking forward to it.